guys, I'm Sdanwolf, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to a new little podcast idea Beyond Drew TV and I are trying out. It's one of those deals where we talk to each other on Discord with HBK and Fisherman and a bunch of people, Bro Nation. We're always on there, kind of talking back and forth, and we're big Planet Coaster Frontier nerds, so we thought it would be pretty interesting to let's just jump in and record some of this, record our thoughts on updates and DLC and Planet Coaster 2 and Planet Safari and all of that stuff that, we typically just kind of chat back and forth with each other. We thought, let's just turn this into a little format. So we don't know how often these will be, but we just figured we would jump in and chat some of this stuff out with you guys and get some of your feedback on it. So we'll go ahead and jump into the meat of it here in just a minute. But for any guys that are with me that might not have caught Beyond Drew TV before, Drew, why don't you jump in a sec and just tell them where they can find you and kind of what you've been up to lately.
Yeah. So, as you said, I'm Beyond Drew TV. For those of you who haven't heard of me before, you can catch me on YouTube and Twitch, making content on there under the same name. So everything's Beyond Drew TV. On Twitch, I like to do a lot of the simulation, strategy, tycoon, design kind of games there. We do that during the week there, usually like 3 to 5 times a week. And then on YouTube, I'm primarily known for doing a lot of Planet Coaster, just like my friend Sdanwolf here. So you can catch me building, Coal Creek Park. I've been doing that park steadily for about 2 years now, off and on. I'm also doing Lunawood. That started out with just hard punk core myself, doing a collaboration park, and then within the last few weeks, we asked Sdanwolf to, he came in and built a awesome log flume for us, and he's going to help us out from there on forward, along with Fisherman and Mate Jake. So that's a really fun project we have going, and nice. I have a few other things on there like recreations from Six Flags Great America and all that fun stuff. So, but yeah, like you said, let's not waste any time because we got some good stuff to talk about. Because our good friend Shantae over at our Frontier, she let on some information yesterday.
Yeah, remember she said that coming in April, we are going to have a big update. Now that's what she said. She said update. She didn't say DLC. She didn't say anything like that. But we are, okay, I'll put it to you like this. The video that I put out yesterday, it seems like maybe 70% of the people were thinking, yeah, it's going to be a big, big DLC, big type, big quality of life, that type of stuff. But then the other half, the 30% or so, ended up saying that no, it's probably the big DLCs, the theming is over. They're looking at this to just be another, just like 10.2 was, just another little bug tweak fix type stuff like that. Maybe fix the log flumes from turning sideways. But with the way that Shantae, I was telling you, Drew, the way that they said, like when they stopped her about talking about the live streams and the exciting screenshots, like when I went back and looked at it again, she even talked about like the official social media channels. They would have some screenshots coming out. So that to me, and I want your take on it, but that just screams DLC to me. I mean, what do you think about the whole update in April?
I'm 110% with you and in the camp of a new DLC. I don't see how it can't not be at this point. A lot of different reasons behind that thinking. Basically, the way Frontier's worked with Planet Coaster, and they've been pretty spot on with this since its release. Or every 3 months, we've gotten a DLC. And 3 months would have been March. As the time of recording this, it's March 23rd. About 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we got a update or a quality of life update in March instead of a DLC. And I think in maybe Shantae or Bo had said, but that's not all. That's not all you're gonna get or whatever. Expect some more in the future. So. I've always kind of expected there to be another DLC. Now, however, I understand where some of your viewers and other people in the community are coming from, where they think, we don't need to get these anymore because, we're gonna talk about this more in the future. But we have the Theme Maker's Toolkit. So why would we need scenery being made? Because we have the Theme Maker's Toolkit now, and I don't buy into that fully. So.
Yeah, I don't either because as far as, and we've talked about this before, nothing to take away from the actual creators, because
no.
pretty much on a daily basis, I talk to Miss Red Nebula, Deadeye Duck, Leaf Scott. I talk to a bunch of them almost every day, every other day. And they are doing this out of a hobby. Like, and I've told them before, if you ever hear me talking about this in a video, this is in no way like a slight to you guys, but they, with as far as is what they're constrained and the restraints of the TMTK are, they're not going to be able to do what the Frontier artists are going to be able to do. So that's why I absolutely do not think that Frontier design theming or different sets is over with by any means. And what have I always said in the past too, Drew? They still have to make money, so it makes absolutely no sense to go 3 months, 6 months without a proper DLC, proper theme, and to just not make any more revenue. And no matter how small or large the team is, we obviously know that there still is an active Planet Coaster team, just with the past update, just like a few weeks ago. So there are still people obviously working on this, and that they have to be paid. So
you touched on it, but the DLCs. When Sdan earlier, he was talking about how we're kind of Frontier and Planet Coaster nerds. We really are, because we look at like their financial reports and get excited about that to see like what's making them money. So
we're like hunting down trademark lawyers and stuff that they've used, and
but like he said, the DLCs do make money. It's not like they release it and myself and Sdan are the only ones purchasing these. No, the Planet Coaster community is thriving very much so, and all different aspects of it. So yeah, and kind of touching on this new, I'm just going to call it a DLC because I'm 110% convinced it's a DLC. In this new DLC, you and I were kind of talking a little bit a few days ago that I think it's going to be a big one. Because when you think of it, we had the Magnificent Rides pack, which is one of my favorite packs ever, because any more rides that we can get in the game, the better. But the one before that, I don't think they had to really, this is going to sound bad when I say it, but I don't think they really had to work too hard on World's Fair pack. So when, in my eyes, the last big DLC that we had, when I say big DLC, what I mean is that we got, scenery and rides and like updates and other gameplay features, whatever, that was vintage. And again, you can touch on this too, Stan, because I know you agree, that World's Fair, I don't think they had to work too hard because it was a throwaway pack, in my opinion. It was leftover pieces.
A lot of us have mentioned that it definitely seemed kind of like a junk pack. Like the World's Fair seemed like stuff that didn't make the cut in other packs per se, and they ended up like, okay, we'll just give them we've got the TMTK coming out, which we did not know at the time. So go ahead and just package this out to them, and let's call it a World's Fair pack. Do you have some of that American stuff and the Asian stuff together? Yeah, go ahead and throw that in there. Get that Venetian carousel in there, and let's just roll with that. And one thing too, Drew, that I really think that leads me to believe that stuff was from a lot of earlier designs is our little Planet Coaster logo. Remember how in the beginning, like even what you were talking about in the alpha stages, they slapped the logo on everything. And people were like, could you guys just not? Like, we don't want to see that we don't need the Planet Coaster logo on all of these scenery items. And then it went away. They stopped putting it on the pieces. But then all of a sudden, Drew, World's Fair pack comes out, and it's like on the Asian roof pieces, on a bunch of the different little pieces. Yeah, there's like this big Planet Coaster logo.
Well, not
on
only
it
that, we've talked about this, since we are active builders and using pieces all the time. There is a dramatic difference between the base game themed items. So I'm talking like the Western, pirates, all those things that aren't DLC required. And you look at some of those pieces, and the scale is just mind-boggling huge. And you even look at the early rides. You look at the the Star Flyer that they have in game. Ginormous area that thing takes up. And then fast forward to, I'm gonna keep bringing up Vintage, not only because it's like one of my favorite packs, but because I think Vintage is really the maturity of Planet Coaster, in my opinion, and the dev team, or the team, kind of hitting their stride fully. You look at those flat rides, and they take up very little room. They're very good in scale. All the items that they gave us, building items, are really, really great in scale. They don't have that Planet Coaster logo all over everything. And then the very next pack, World's Fair, they randomly reverted back. So again, like you and I are harping on here, I don't think that World's Fair was a pack that they were actively working on for months at a time. So
yeah, and Drew, I hate to kind of take us off on another little weird direction that we go sometimes, but speaking of scale, remember a while ago, you and I were talking about pulling from our Sims side here. How awesome would it be if Planet Coaster had a scaling tool implemented?
Oh my God.
If we could take these rocks or trees and just all of this little stuff, right, and scale it down or up to how we need it. So I was thinking, if we could convey anything to Planet Coaster 2, when that's designed, if it'll ever be designed, because mine and Drew's Planet Coaster 2 info basically is just a big hope, for one.
Yep.
And some of the people that come back from the Frontier Expo back in 2017, a lot of them were talking about, I saw on some of their, just some of the videos and stuff, you would hear it being dropped, they definitely think Planet Coaster 2 will be dropped. And remember, even Sam Denny on one of the live streams one time, I think people were bugging him. I might have mentioned this before to you too, Drew. Remember, people were bugging him about weather in Planet Coaster, how it would be so awesome if weather patterns and thunderstorms and stuff would roll through. And I swear to you, I don't know what live stream it was, but he leaned back in the chair and said, "That's Planet Coaster 2."
And then, really? I don't remember that one.
But they just kind of laughed it off. And I swear, if we go back and look, he said that in one of those live streams. But he said it kind of like joking, but kind of like wink, wink, not joking.
Yeah, like Sam does.
Yeah, so that was leading me. And then plus those guys come back from the expo, and I'm like, I bet you Planet Coaster 2 will happen one day. I think you were more on but we're probably talking 2021, 2022.
Right.
But
if you look
still,
at Frontier's kind of lineup, and we're actually, before we go into this, because this could be a whole nother topic, do we want to touch any more on the upcoming update at all? Do you want to hypothesize about maybe themes or what we would like to see in it, or?
Well, for me, you guys know that I am a major theme guy. I'm a scenery guy, sandbox player. I'm not really steeped into the rides and the mechanics and the different coasters really that a lot of the community is. So for me, personally, I would love to see another huge theme pack. Personally, I would love to see what Frontier could do with an Atlantis theme.
Oh, interesting.
I'm kind of on my Atlantis kick right now.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as I go, you guys know me. I am a theme type person. So I absolutely, not to be selfish, and it was a great pack, but I would be severely let down if it was a sister pack to Magnificent Rides. The rides and things are great, but I am ready for some more, for another theme, or even them to elaborate on more themes. Remember how before you and I said it'd be cool if they maybe elaborated a little more on Western or the sci-fi theme. And it goes back to what you said about them being so seasoned now to what we want and what the community. Remember how you always say they have such a better grasp now of what we're going to do with the game than they did even say a year ago or a year and a half ago?
They had no idea. I mean, no, I'm pretty sure I remember hearing interviews with them and stuff like that, about hearing when they watch Sylve take a lamppost and flip it upside down in alpha and use it as like a support piece. And they everyone who watched that at Frontier, apparently their minds just blew up because
they just lost their mind.
Yeah, they're like, I never thought that they would do that. And then, that kind of was just the story of Planet Coaster. And okay, I guess we can talk about it real quick. And this is what kind of irks me about certain community members. You always hear this negative side in the community of, oh, Frontier doesn't listen to us. Frontier doesn't listen to us. They don't ever listen to us. They're the worst Frontier. They're the worst community managers ever. And it's like, if you look back to when Planet Coaster first came out, and I'm talking like alpha, to what we have today, if they didn't listen to us, the game we wouldn't recognize it today if they didn't take community feedback.
We all would have moved on to something else by now. So that is a really that is a dumb argument. We've got our constructive criticism about Frontier sometimes with the over secrecy and people's got their different arguments about that. But as far as Frontier not listening to the community, there's no way that this game would. Yeah, there would no way this game would be in
just
the state it is right now.
Just because Frontier doesn't release the very specific niche ride that you want doesn't mean that they're not listening. It might just mean that they have to appease more than one person because more than one person plays this game. So again, just because you didn't get your one ride or it took them a little bit to make that ride, tough luck, at least you got it or whatever. But and if you can do better, go do it. Go build your own game. It's kind of my thing.
And I get caught up as far as some of the fringe comments that come in on some of my videos. Not really like the core community, but it's fringe comments.
Definitely.
People I don't recognize. They come in and say, oh, I think it's bullshit that they're putting out new DLCs when the game is still broken. And I'm like, Drew, if they waited for everybody that plays this game to have 60 frames per second and be able to build a 200,000 piece park with 10,000 guests, we would never get anything new.
We would never have gotten spooky or anything past that because they'd still be optimizing the game.
Yeah, it's just, this is what we have at this point. And, it's just, we've got a lot of topics to go in on these videos, but Drew and I want to hit on this. Don't know if it'll be necessarily this episode, but just moving forward, what a monster Planet Coaster 2 could be with what they know now that they didn't know in November of 2016. You got to think like me and Drew, we've been playing this game since what, 2015, the very end, or the beginning of, or maybe the beginning of 2016. So we're talking, we've rode this coaster for a good coming up on 3 years now.
Yeah.
So that's what I just said. It's kind of disheartening when people say there's no need for them to put out new stuff until they get this fixed. That's just, it's a weird argument. It doesn't make sense.
And again, I know I kind of touched on this, but literally, if you look at where Planet Coaster was in alpha and beta to where it is now, the game visually literally looks better. If you go back and look at old screenshots from alpha days and stuff like that, the sky even looks different. The lighting is all different. So they've been, updating that, optimizing that. I remember when I first got at the parks, I couldn't play that well in any of the parks because they weren't doing that well. So, it's a crap argument, and I think people have to set realistic expectations with any game like this, because I compare this game a lot of times to City Skylines because that has an amazing modding community and asset community and stuff like that. And same thing happens with that game where you start to put in hundreds of thousands, 300,000, 500,000 individual pieces. You could have a NASA machine and it's gonna chug. You have to understand that your computer has to process each individual item, right? So it's just a matter of time. So I feel for those people that are having slow parks and stuff, but you gotta be realistic about your expectations, I think.
Yeah, and that's what, as far as talking about them learning about what we need in the game, what we're going to do with the game, I really think at this point it's kind of like a Planet Coaster 2 point. But, if you think about games like this nowadays, I mean, how cool is it that it can be updated in real time? And I mean, just think back to like the CD days when they put out a game and you might have, maybe a couple years later, you get a big expansion pack, and then maybe a year after that, another one. Those games were basically, if you got what you got. There was never any more patching done. It was like, this is what you have, and thank you guys for buying it. Be on the lookout for our next game in maybe 7 years. And but just think like back then.
I think you're hitting on an interesting point. I know it's not all of this, but I think it's a bit of a. You can tell the age differences in people who complain about certain things like that. They might be on the younger side and didn't, grow up in the late 90s or early to mid 2000s when, like you were saying, we already talked about The Sims. I'll compare The Sims. You buy The Sims 1 and then they had, the expansion packs that would come out. They had like 40 different expansion packs for every single game, and that's how you would get updates for things, because they would release an expansion pack and it would have like a patch with it, so you wouldn't get this instantaneous gratification kind of thing. You'd have to sit there and wait your ass a few months to go buy an expansion pack to get your game updated. So
and now, like you said, we can literally sit here, and if you're having these problems, they tell us there's a fix for it, and you might have to wait 14 or 18 days, and your game is literally fixed in 18 days. And you're not waiting 6, 7, 8 months for an update pack to come out. So and then as far as too is like back then, whoever heard of, like, you didn't see interviews with the developers. I couldn't tweet Sam Denny and say, hey man, is there any way you could take a look at this, or this isn't quite acting right? Like, you didn't know those guys. There were no community managers.
No.
And now I really think a lot of these people, like, they take these community managers and the access that we have nowadays totally for granted.
I completely agree.
I think it's a great time to actually be a gamer and to come of age in this time of gaming. The last thing I'm doing is whining about communication or when the next update's coming out, or it shouldn't put out more updates until they fix the base game. I'm just like, yawn. Just don't bore me.
It's become boring, and like Stan said, this isn't like we just have noticed this, in the past week. Like I said, we've been involved in the community here for, going on 3 years, and even, before then, because we were around for RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 days, and it's been a reoccurring theme of, I'm going to use this word, and people are going to probably get mad if they think it's pertaining to them, but it's how I see it: entitlement. They're very entitled, and the way it works is you don't have to buy it, you don't have to play it. That is optional on your end. If you don't like it, go play another theme park game. However, you'll have to play RollerCoaster Tycoon World, but
But yeah, I mean, it's like you said. It's just I don't want us to just come across as like just total Frontier fanboys.
No, they make mistakes.
I think we just, like, there's a certain community here that just comes across a little more mature. Like, I'm a 31-year-old man. Why am I going to get on Twitter or on the forums and like cuss out a complete community manager stranger over something that they have absolutely nothing to do with? It's like, really, it's like, just grow up. It
seems like a weird thing to stress yourself out about. Basically, it's a video game. Enjoy the ride, friends.
I know that, and like somebody put on the video yesterday, they're like, I hate their DLCs, or I hate the way they announce these DLCs. And I think I commented back, I'm like, that's a really weird thing to hate.
Yeah. It might be time to get up, get away from the computer, go outside, and breathe in some fresh air there for a minute or two.
Like, yeah, I wish that was the only thing. Is that the only thing you have to be upset about?
Oh, I know, right? So, so we've been kind of touching on a little bit. You know, we've kind of talked about that Planet Coaster kind of evolution over the years here and stuff like that. But you know, how about we stick with Planet Coaster 1 here for just a little bit? What do you think the future for Planet Coaster 1 is? Do you think we have like another year, or what do you think?
Well, listening to some people that, like I said, I keep kind of harping back to this Frontier Expo because, you know, we learned a lot of information from that, because it wasn't kind of like marred in a GDC or like a PAX East or something, kind of like where they were just doing a little, maybe had a little booth or might have been a little meetup or something. This was like their deal. There was nobody else there. It was Frontier's Expo. And I don't know, man, listening to some of those guys, like after Vintage Pack, no, actually after Studios Pack, I think a lot of them were saying there was only going to be one more pack left. So back then, those guys were saying Planet Coaster only had 6 more months left. I think they said 2 more DLCs. And it was the support of it was ending that. So I think they got a lot of their details crossed up, because a lot of them were hinting at UGC, which at the time we didn't know was going to be the Theme Maker's Toolkit. Mm-hmm. And they were hinting at, like, I guess what essentially ended up being Vintage Pack, they kind of hinted to me that, like, that was it. So now we're sitting here, what did you say, 6 months later?
Yeah.
And Magnificent Rides came out, and something else is about to come out in probably less than 30 days. And 30 days is April 23rd. So I don't know. Maybe those guys weren't given misinformation as much as plans just changed within
just
Frontier.
Outdated.
Like they said, well, we can go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and prolong this, or we've got the art departments working on this. Let's see if we can kind of flesh this out. So at this point, man, I have no clue. This could be the very last one, or this game could still have 2 years left. I mean, we just don't really know without the roadmap and you know, without that internal. We've always said, like, we think when people start working at Frontier, they're like threatened with a public hanging, like right there in the middle of their corporate office.
If you don't speak, never tell anyone.
If one blip is released, you know, they're like the guys in suits come in and drag them out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're never heard from again. But
right.
I don't know, Drew. Like, I want it to have a long life, but I don't know.
I'm thinking, and this is I'm looking at the whole picture, and when I say that, I mean all of Frontier. So I've been watching. Elite Dangerous announced a week or 2 ago that they have a monumentally ginormous update coming in 2 years. I'm pretty sure, or a year or something like that. So that would put it at, I think it was 2020. I wish I should have brought some information up in front of my face here. I think it's 2020 or 2021. So that's coming. They're working on that this year. So then I think Jurassic World Evolution has another 2 or 3 years on its roadmap as well, which would bring us to 2022, 2023. And then we have the 4th and 5th franchises that have been officially announced, kind of thing. And I think they said the 4th franchise is coming out this year, 2019, so they are actively working on that. And then the other one's going to come out probably in 2 or 3 years. So all that being said, with everything going on at Frontier, that kind of leaves next year, 2022 kind of open. And I think that's when we can kind of start to think about hearing about Planet Coaster 2. I think they'll do 1 more year of development on Planet Coaster 1. So end of this year will probably be the last one that we get. And then there'll be radio silence on Planet Coaster for a year or 2 as they focus on all those new franchises, the ginormous Elite Dangerous update, the Jurassic World Evolution updates. And then I think like I said, 2022, 2023, we might start to hear about some Planet Coaster 2 news there.
I guarantee that they're anxious. I mean, just know, like, as much as I've talked to like Sam and just a couple of them, I think Planet Coaster 2, like, they really want to nail it because, just like we said, taking 3 years of feedback. And isn't it though, Drew, like this whole Planet Coaster thing was like a big weird experiment, because remember, like, being a part of like the Coaster Head Club and getting early access to the game, it's weird. It's like, I don't think that'll ever happen again. Like, as far as, how like we talked about, it's weird that it happened in the first place. Just looking back now, like, as far as secretive as they are nowadays, at least.
Up until I heard about it, I randomly heard about it on a Facebook group that I was a part of. Up until then, I was trying to be excited about RollerCoaster Tycoon World.
I was too, and I remember seeing, I'll never forget, I was sitting at work when that disastrous RollerCoaster Tycoon World trailer came out. And I just remember sinking in my chair.
Right.
Because
like,
remember, we
have.
didn't really know much about Planet Coaster. We had heard there was one.
We had that teaser trailer with the guy running down the pathway with the T-Rex, or chasing after him. Really, that was all cinematic. So I was.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that and I remember I got emotional like when I saw that trailer, because we had just come off such a low of watching that dumpster fire RollerCoaster Tycoon World trailer, and then when Planet Coaster come out, we're like, what the hell?
Our savior.
What is this? And, we just kind of been attached to it ever since.
Absolutely. I mean, I've never, like you were mentioning, those of you that maybe are newer to the Planet Coaster community, hi, welcome, first off, glad to have you. And he was talking about the Coaster Head Club. You had to pay a little bit more money, and I've never done this for a game up until then. So I went ahead and did to get, early access. You got that special gold, you got that gold hard hat in the game, and all these other things, and you got access to dev diaries, and just I remember when I was, like you said, I was at work too when they would have those lead up days when they were announcing this is what you can do with coasters, and this is what you can, here's the wood. I remember when wooden coasters came out, and my jaw just dropped.
Yeah, remember when they would sneak and like show us screenshots, and then people started like leaking the screenshots.
I got in trouble at work because of that. I had my phone on me all the time.
Yeah, me too. I was just like, I just, you would hide in corners and stuff to try to, I gotta
go to the bathroom again. You just went 10 minutes ago. Yeah, I know. It's a rough day. So.
But we definitely look forward to those dev diaries. That would be awesome if they'd bring that back for Planet Coaster 2. But it's weird. It's like it's Planet Coaster is so special, and I know that you're probably going to agree with me. But really, Drew, I mean, you probably didn't feel the same way about Jurassic World Evolution, did you?
No.
I mean, me and you are always honest with each other. I didn't either. It wasn't the same.
I wanted to like it. I really did, but and this is kind of a really big tangent, obviously, but what really took me away from it personally was the gameplay. I didn't understand. This is definitely going to harp on those of you that have played Jurassic World Evolution a bit to understand how the game mechanics work. But what really took me out of that game was how if you didn't appease one of your members, they were going to like kill your guests basically by releasing dinosaurs. And I was like, wait, that's not how that would probably happen. It's just like anything you did that was wrong, they would kill your guests. I was like, that was a weird kind of spin on that. It just took me way out of it, and it felt like a mobile game. So
yeah, it's just that's kind of like the spin I was taking with it. Like when it first come out, I was just more like my support side of it was I wanted Frontier to do good. Like this was their first shot at their own kind of like global IP try. So on the Frontier side of it, I wanted that to succeed, and it did really, really well. Still doing well. So because but as far as the like me playing it and supporting them like that,
the thing that really stings is when you look at Steam charts for it. The initial release week or weekend, and even you look at Twitch too, because Twitch is a good indicator sometimes of how a game is relevant. It was wicked relevant, like top of the charts for 2 or 3 days, and then Just no one gave a crap anymore after that. And Frontier, I love you, I do. But every game that I've played from you guys, the gameplay is always the thing that lacks the most. So, and Planet Coaster's the same way, because you can cheese Planet Coaster really easily. If you start turning a profit, you can get up out of your chair, go have a hot dog or have some lunch, come back, and you'll be a millionaire playing sandbox mode. And that's why I've never really played the campaign, because I can cheese the game really easily. Jurassic World Evolution, kind of same thing. The gameplay really lacking, but again, the animation, the sound.
I know that's the flip side. It is beautiful. They put out gorgeous games,
right? And the sound is the best in the industry, but it's just the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, it's that gameplay side, that management side that they really, I think, moving forward, into 2019, fourth franchise and beyond, they really need to kind of look at that and maybe do some reshuffling or organizing, or maybe just bring in some fresh ideas on the gameplay side, because they know they have to hear this. That's their art department, that department should win awards every single year.
Yeah, give them all raises. Every year, give them raises.
Community management department on top of it.
I think they need to do what my old job we used to do. We'd constantly remind ourselves of KISS. For those of you who don't know what KISS is, it's keep it simple, stupid. And when you really break down Tycoon and management games, you can try and go convoluted and get all this stuff and go really deep with it. But really, just you look back at RollerCoaster Tycoon 1 and 2, top-down isometric graphics, but you could sit there and play those games for hours on end and not get tired of it. And it's not like you're building the whole time in that. You're having fun because you're managing a park. I mean, compare it to Parkitect, that's out right now, which is the same thing. And the management in that, the Parkitect has a million times better simulation and management than Planet Coaster does. So again, sometimes, I understand companies wanting to do the next biggest bold thing and, stand out, but sometimes just keep it simple, stupid.
I know. And one thing that you and I have mentioned kind of off and on, that we think really kind of drags Planet Coaster back, and I know you probably know what I'm about to say, Drew, the guess brain being so just OP'd. Like, that's what we were saying about Planet Coaster 2. If they could take anything from it, we don't need the guests to be that smart. No,
we don't. And we were literally talking about this before we recorded, because I had mentioned it in, I think, like a Lunawood or something video. If I could have an option to turn off the quote unquote guest brain to save my park literally 10 to 20 frames, I will do it. I don't care if guests run into each other. I don't need them to have a philosophical debate about whether or not they want to eat a hamburger or a corn dog or whatever,
Yeah, well, we do not need them computing that much. And it's like you said, I get what you said. Simulation evolved. They were taking what was essentially little zombie people, went point A, point B, and they were trying to give them a sense of direction. They were wanting them to make decisions in the game. And that
now, I don't know if you heard this, and I want to bring it up because I don't know if I've actually talked to you or anyone else about this, but I remember it was either an interview or it was on Reddit or something where, how does it work? So we have obviously the scenery and building tab, and how do I word this? The guest brain and the scenery and building tabs were all supposed to be interconnected to all have an influence on the guest as they were going throughout the park. So it's supposed to be, if you had a building, from the building tab that you built, the guests would see that, recognize that it was a building, and it would have an influence on their experience. Same thing if you did the scenery thing too.
I think I have. Yeah, I have.
So, and then that kind of touches with Sylv, when he took that lamppost and flipped it upside down and used it as a support. Well, then the guest brain was like, wait, that's scenery, but it's not, and I can't understand it. And it just so basically the way that we build now confuses the guest brain to not be able to process what they initially wanted to. So again, to my understanding is that they scrapped an entire dev cycles worth of like guest brain code to adapt to our play style now today. Again, that's all hypothetical, and I think I read it or saw it like 2 or 3 years ago, but I do remember hearing about that.
That's very, very interesting as far as like our problems go. And it's like you said, man, for Planet Coaster 2, I do not care. Like the guests look awesome, like they really make the parks come to life, but that's all I need them for. I don't need them to be thinking, and are they going to be in this group, or are they going to get an ice cream? Like I don't need them to think on a really high level. I just need them there for the scenery. I need them for the animation and the realism. Right. So, it's just like you said.
Are they hungry? Go eat at the nearest place. Do you have to go to the bathroom? Go to the nearest bathroom. Are you a teenager? Okay, then you like exciting rides.
Yeah, so, but yeah, anyways, man, I appreciate you stopping by. I guess we can go ahead and, do you want to wrap this first episode up?
Yeah, I know we were kind of all over the place for the first one, but that's kind of what we kind of wanted to do. Just kind of throw it all at the wall, see what sticks. Just kind of talk about what's on our mind there,
we have a huge list, guys. Like our Discord, we do. we've got Planet Safari stuff to talk about. We've got fourth franchise. We've got water park DLCs to make fun of. I mean, we've got the Cobra engine to talk about. We've got a really interesting article from July 2018 of David Watts and David Braben, and they are talking. That'll probably be on Drew's channel. That'll be next. But we'll go into the detail of David or both the Davids talking about why they always choose the Cobra engine over Unreal Engine, or what they call quote unquote off-the-shelf engines.
There it is.
It's a really interesting article, and Drew and I'll dive into that more.
Yeah.
And kind of give you our thoughts on that decision and how it's affected Planet Coaster. But we'll jump into that, like I said, next time. So
yeah, that'll be a good topic for the second episode. We can definitely talk about that for an entire episode easily, because there's a lot to go into that.
Yeah, but yeah, anyways, like I said, guys, thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us, and big thanks to Beyond Drew for willing to jump in and record this with me, and be on the lookout for Take 2 Episode 2 over on his channel. Just sure whenever we get around to recording that part, we'll put it up on his. And like always, leave your thoughts down below. So much of these videos are continued right down in this comments section, and we always love to hear from you guys. We know you can't be on here live with us all the time, but your comments can definitely help dictate future episodes.
Absolutely.
And kind of what we talk about. So, and you might get you a little shout out on there too. So, So, anyways, guys, Drew, you got any last thing to add? And we'll go ahead and we'll kill this.
No, that'll do it there. So thanks so much everyone for hanging out. We always appreciate it. And like Sdan said, definitely let us know what you're thinking about any of the million tangents that we went off on here today. And I look forward to doing this again. It's fun to talk about what we message back and forth every day. So might as well just talk to you guys about it. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. And you guys go ahead and smash that like button if you end up enjoying this video, and subscribe for more Planet Coaster content. And we will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you. See you guys.
Bye.